Hey guys, Mars Thinking here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to do the team building guide for the TEQ Hit EZA, which will be coming to JP. If you're watching this video as soon as it goes up, I think the EZA comes out in about 12 hours. That's usually the time frame that I go for when putting up these EZA team building guides. So the page on the wiki is not fully put together, it doesn't have a proper image or anything here, but this is the correct details for the Hit EZA that we obviously learned from the data download earlier today. So the weakness category is All Out Struggle. It is a typical 30-stage EZA, so you can't stun from stage 5 onwards, can't lower attack from stage 15 onwards, and you can't seal from stage 20 onwards. That is the one that's worth bearing in mind, because sealing, I mean, the first 19 stages, not necessarily going to be difficult if you have an optimal team, but the fact that you can still seal him up to that point is very, very useful. And then stage 20, this is where the important thing kicks in that makes your team building so important, is the units that get the damage reduction. So 80% damage reduction for AGL, TEQ, and all extreme. So that means you're going to want to be using Super Int, Super Physical, and Super STR only for this EZA. So typical 30-stage EZA, like I said, so at the end of it, when it's all said and done, you get all the medals to fully EZA the TEQ Hit, you get a whole bunch of TEQ Orbs, and you get 11 TEQ Grand Kais, 30 stones, and then of course there will be standard missions to beat stages within a certain amount of time and to use characters from the All Out Struggle category. So in total, you will get 34 stones from completing the whole thing. Obviously, if you want to go past stage 30, you start just getting Hercule statues. And yeah, there we go. So All Out Struggle is the category. Now, this one is potentially going to be a little bit more tricky for some people because there is only one All Out Struggle category leader, which is the LR Blue Boys, Blue Goku and Blue Evolution. Well, it's Blue Ken Goku and Blue Evolution Vegeta. So if you have this LR, then there you go. That's like the ideal unit to use as the leader, because you don't have to make any compromises in the team building. You don't have to try and fit units together that may not necessarily work in the right category setup because you have to use a secondary lead or something like that. So if you have these guys, obviously that is the best place to start. And All Out Struggle is quite a small category overall. I'm actually quite surprised that they did go ahead and give the damage reduction to 2 typings, because when I first looked at the list of All Out Struggle units, because the category is so small, I was actually wondering if they would put a damage reduction on any typings. I figured Extreme was probably going to come into it, which doesn't really matter, because literally the only Extreme unit on All Out Struggle is the 2 Vegetas that use the final explosion. Like even the STR Martian Vegeta, because he's the one that fights Goku, is not on here, which is kind of funny. So this category is pretty small. As always with these team building guides, we're going to go through my top picks and some honourable mentions. What I like to do with these is if there's any units that you guys think I missed or didn't talk about enough, feel free to let me know down below in the comments and we can continue the discussion down there. If you do find the guide helpful, do click that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let us go ahead and jump straight in here. So obviously, like I said, the Blue Boys are going to be the most optimal leader. 3 key and 150% across the board for stats. They do greatly raise their defense on either of their super attacks, so they're not a unit that is super good in slot 1, although you can kind of get away with using them in slot 1 if you have to. But once they've super attacked, I found a new love for this unit after using them in ESBR. When we got the category ESBR stages on Global, I actually used these guys in my Realm of Gods no item run because their defense is so good after super attacking that even in ESBR they were taking double-digit damage from normal attacks after a super. So in the EZA, even up to like stage 30, they're going to be really strong defensively once they've super attacked. Not necessarily the best at tanking supers, but still going to be very effective. They obviously do have a nuking style passive as well, so the more orbs you pick up, the more defense they're going to get. And then of course they get a chance to crit. They also get extra ki from rainbow orbs as well. So if you have a rainbow orb changer on the team, they're obviously more effective, but even without one, like I say, both their supers raise their defense. So even if you can only get their 12 key super, you can still get pretty good defense with them. And then their active skill can kind of be used as like a finisher in this event, because you can use it when your HP is 50% or less, and obviously in an EZA you can't heal, so It's a lot easier to get to these lower thresholds. They get full 24 key guaranteed, and then they get an extra 70% attack and minus 50% defense. So like I said, you kind of want to use this as a finisher for these EZA events, because you know you're losing quite a significant chunk of your defense, so they can be used just to deliver the finishing blow, because they can hit very hard. Like if you get a setup where you can pick up a ton of orbs for them, and then that's the turn where you can use the active skill, that combination is then obviously going to be very, very powerful. So next up we have the TEQ, Goku and Frieza. Now the only reason that I've included these guys here, because if you remember back to the beginning, TEQ does get a type, get the damage reduction in this event past stage 20. But a lot of the units in All Out Struggle that we're going to talk about for this guide are on Universe Survival Saga or are reps of Universe 7. So it's actually quite possible to make a full reps of Universe 7 team that can be very effective in this event. Obviously the only major difference here is that Goku and Frieza are not going to do any sort of real quality damage past stage 20, but they also raise defense on super attack, so they can at least tank reasonably well. They're just not going to do a lot of damage, but they definitely can be a good stand-in leader if you don't have the blue boys but you have a lot of the other reps of Universe 7. If you do have the blue boys but you're missing out on some other options, these guys are not as good because, like I say, their damage is going to be lacking, but their defense can still be pretty good, so they're worth considering as a secondary option. For that same reason, I've included the Kaioken Goku. Obviously, meme though he may be, he is reps of Universe 7 and Universe Survival Saga category leader, so again, he makes a good stand-in if you're missing the blue boys. Obviously, again, he has the active skill, which can actually be quite useful. If you're below 59% HP, you have 3 or more reps of Universe 7 on the team, you can use the Spirit Bomb, does big damage, buffs everybody else for the turn, and he's going to be very good. Obviously, he does need to build up a little bit over time. You don't want him to be taking too many attacks, like really early on. But he can still be fairly useful. He's definitely not a top tier unit, but you know, being the meme that he has become, he definitely gets underrated. Like, he's not a fantastic unit in my opinion for sure, but people act like he is absolute garbage, and he's not quite that bad. So definitely another good option for a stand-in leader. Then we have the Int LR Blue Evolution Vegeta, my nemesis from the anniversary. He is obviously going to be a really, really strong unit in this event, because out of all the units we talked about so far, he's the first int one. So obviously he has type advantage, so going to be good for the damage as well as the defense. The more he takes attacks, the more he builds up. So obviously having him nice and early, like on the first turn, is ideal. Put him in front of a whole bunch of attacks, get him to start building up. He has his active skill that you can use on turn 4, which, I mean, EZAs are not normally very long, but as you get to the later stages, and if you decide to push past stage 30, you could potentially start getting to stage 4 onwards. So then his active skill is probably going to end up being more of a finisher in that scenario, because he probably doesn't have a huge amount of HP left. But this guy is, once you've picked your leader, this guy is probably the top pick for the team. Obviously, he's on reps of Universe 7 and Universe Survival Saga, if you are using one of the other leaders. But he has a pretty good leader skill himself, because obviously reps of Universe 7 covers all the units that we've talked about so far. And then his other leader skill, that was the category introduced with him at the anniversary, is Powerful Comeback. Now, if we have a look at this, there is a little bit of a crossover with units that are on All Out Struggle. But what you may need to do, like if you're having to use Vegeta as a leader because you're missing out on some of the bigger options, you can put in units like, for example, this Int Super Saiyan Goku from the download celebration if you pulled him. Now, obviously, he's not an all-out struggle unit, so he's not going to be doing the kind of usual damage that you would see from him in event, but this guy's a really powerful unit. He's got type advantage. Like, he's still going to be very useful in that event, even though he's not top tier. So if you're struggling to fill out a full team because your all-out struggle box is kind of lacking a little bit, then having Vegeta as the leader and using some of these other units is going to be very effective. Because even like STRUI Goku, again, not in all-out struggle, so he's not going to be doing insane game-breaking damage, but having his dodges and everything is obviously going to be very, very helpful. So that is another possibility for using this Vegeta as the leader. So next up we have the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Obviously he has his EZA on JP. whilst he didn't get like crazy OP with his EZA like some of the other LRs, he is obviously still very good and got a bunch of extra defense. So whilst he's not going to be a great slot 1 unit, he's a unit that you can easily put onto the team. He gets extra key with the orbs that he picks up, making it a lot easier to get his 18 key super. So early on in the first, probably even like the first half of the EZA, like the first 15 stages, this guy is just going to be doing insane damage to hit, like just tons and tons of damage. This team is very LR heavy. Like if you have every single unit, like almost every unit we've talked about so far pretty much is an LR, apart from the Kaioken Goku. So this team is going to be very powerful, legendary power active, a lot of Saiyans that we've talked about already. So Gohan definitely going to be able to put out quite a lot of damage in this event. So he is definitely worth putting onto the team if you have him. Next up, we have the Master Roshi. So this is the free-to-play option. I guess you could use him as the lead with the Turtle School leader skill, mainly because like pretty much every single Goku in the game is on Turtle School. So you can essentially, like we were talking about with the Vegeta leader, you can just put on as many really good Gokus that you have. Obviously try and prioritize the ones that are in All Out Struggle, which is not a huge amount, unfortunately. In fact, there's no LRs that are just Goku. So actually, there's barely any units, so I guess you'd probably just want to be using a more so like int team of Gokus if you had to use this guy as a leader as like a last resort. But he's going to be really good. He's another Reps of Universe 7 unit, so you can see what I'm saying here, why that team build for this is going to be super good. He's really, really good. He's got the easiest to achieve revival skill, although it does require you to have 2 or more Turtle School allies on the team. So obviously that's, like we just said, there's not a lot of Gokus on All Out Struggle, but you could bring some Gokus along just so you have this in your sort of back pocket as a emergency heal in case the event is getting a little bit difficult for you. And then obviously Roshi, you know, one of the best free-to-play units in the game, puts out very solid numbers, especially with his 18 key super, and he does seal, which as we talked about, up to stage like 19 you can still seal the enemy. So Roshi is going to be very useful, even if you are like running the most optimal team, like you've got the Blue Boys, you've got the LR Vegeta, like this guy definitely goes on the team, I think. So he's going to be very, very good. Next up we have the Angel Vegeta. So his link set is a little bit wonky compared to a lot of the, obviously a lot of the units we talked about so far are all in the Tournament of Power, so they all have that link which kind of helps them go together fairly well. But this Vegeta is very good. Now, you're probably not going to have a Majin Buu Saga ally Goku on the team, so you're not going to get his full potential, but he still is a very good unit. Obviously his active skill you won't be able to use without a Majin Buu Saga Goku either. But overall, he still is a fairly solid unit. I think he kind of almost falls more into the honourable mentions sort of level, because he doesn't fit into the team super well and he doesn't have like his most optimal ally, but he's just another LR that is in the right category. So obviously in the right situation, maybe with a bit of support on rotation, he is still going to be able to do some pretty solid damage as well as defend reasonably well as well. Plus, I just love this unit. Like, this is not the optimal team for him, but I'm just a big fan of this unit, so we had to mention him. Next up, we have the Bardock, who obviously recently got his EZA with the end of the download celebration. He became very, very good. Raises defense on both of his super attacks. Again, he's another LR that seals on his 18 key like the Master Roshi, so that's going to be really useful in the first 19 stages. And then he gets pretty solid stats. When you're facing only one enemy, he does do a bunch of additional attack as well and getting some extra key, so he's going to be very strong here, very easy to get his 18 key super. Obviously there's no Frieza, so you don't get the extra attack buff or guaranteed crits, but he's still going to be very, very good. As you can see going through this team so far, like there's a lot of Saiyan units, so there's going to be a lot of shared links across the board, even if there aren't any perfect like 6 or 7 link partner matchups on this team. There's a lot of common links spread across all of these Saiyan units, and obviously, like I said earlier, a lot of LRs, so Bardock is definitely going to be very good in this event. Then we have Future Gohan. So I included him here because he's basically one of the only all-out struggle non-LR units that is int, that is actually good. Like, he greatly raises defense on super, so he's going to tank reasonably well. You're probably going to end up using him more as like a third slot floating unit, especially if you have all of the LRs. But he can definitely be very useful on this team. Without having like a future Trunks, he's not going to be able to transform. So he's only really going to be in his base form in this kind of setup, because there's no future Trunks is on All Out Struggle. Which is actually kind of weird when you think about it, because like, surely TEQ Trunks, whose final form, especially with his transformation, is the Spirit Sword that he used to defeat Zamasu, which, I mean, you would argue that that was an all-out struggle, surely, but apparently not. So without a future Gohan, future Trunks on the team, you're not going to see this guy transform up to Super Saiyan. But in his base, he's still going to be very solid defensively. And obviously, I showed that other tab there. We also have the Super Saiyan future Gohan. He's definitely more of an honorable mention. Like, he builds up his defense and he builds up his damage reduction over time as the event goes on. And EZAs are not particularly long. But if you need to fill that final slot on your team, especially if you are bringing the Int future Gohan, then this guy is worth bringing along, because other than the fact that he's a Super Saiyan, like, a lot of their links are very similar, so they will work really well together as a rotation. And then finally, I thought I'd throw this guy in as an honorable mention, because he gets forgotten a lot. Like, when he got his EZA, I really like the art for this unit, and back when Gohan didn't have his EZA and had kind of become a bit of a meme, like no one really ever wanted to run him anymore, I really liked this STR Gohan. Like, his EZA is nothing crazy, but he's pretty solid. And then, of course, the TEQ LR Super Saiyan 2 Gohan came out and kind of blew him out of the water. But in EZAs, the same name update does not apply. So if you're using Int LR Gohan, you can't use this guy. And now with his EZA, as we talked about earlier on, Int LR Gohan is actually really good to use for this. So you can't use this guy if you are using the LR. But if you don't have him, he can still be a fairly solid unit. He'll be able to deal some reasonable damage. Because he's only type neutral though, as you get later on into the event, he's definitely going to start taking a lot of damage from super attacks. So you have to be very careful where you put him on the rotation. So those are some of my top picks and honorable mentions. I mean, if we look back at the category, there's not really a lot of units to cover that I didn't talk about. AGL and TEQ, like we said, get a huge damage debuff. So it's almost not even really worth bringing them, especially AGL, because you have type disadvantage. So I wouldn't recommend bringing any of those anyway. When it comes to TEQ, none of these guys really stand up as being strong defensive units anymore, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, this Vegeta is so incredibly outdated. And then STR, we talked about Kaioken Goku and Gohan. The free-to-play Kaioken Goku is just not very good. And then pretty much all of these TURs, if we didn't talk about them already, they're just the TUR version of the LRs that we did talk about, apart from the two Kaioken Gokus who are super outdated at this point. And then that's it for TURs. So, all-out struggle, definitely a very restrictive category. So, as I said when we were talking about Vegeta's leader skill, you may need to plug some gaps in your team with just other int units that fit under your leader skills. Because, like, for example, if you are using the Blue Boys, remember they do have joined forces as their secondary lead. So, if you have, like, a really strong int joined forces unit that you have a ton of dupes in, maybe that you've link leveled, and you're really struggling to fill that last slot on your team, you could always throw them in there. They're not going to be the most optimal for the event, but at least it's another unit with type advantage that can help complete the team setup. So I feel like there's not really much I could have missed, because this category is very restrictive, but let me know what you guys think down below. What is your team build going to be? I feel like because the category is so restrictive, this is going to be one of those EZAs that isn't going to be particularly difficult. Like, we see things like the physical cooler, where STR Super Saiyans is such an insanely broken, like, setup that he had tons of health even early on. Whereas I feel like this hit one is not going to be anywhere near as challenging. But let me know what your team builds are going to be down below. And like I said, if you do think I missed anything or want to highlight any abilities of any units that I kind of skipped over, let us know down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store. And I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.